Yeah, ready?
Yeah.
Cool. Shirt, hat.
Looking good.
Yeah, looking good. All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of our driver bio. This month in November, we have our guest, Mike Malloy. Mike, welcome.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
How are you doing today?
Good. Very
Good.
good.
Yeah.
You?
Doing well, doing well. Excited to be doing this with you. I know we've been talking about it for a little while, and
Yeah.
I got a chance to get together on it. So
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Definitely.
absolutely. Well, you've had quite exciting beginning of the year. You are up there in the battle for the air cool challenge on the Snore and have just won, came home from the Pahrump 200, the Lone Kid Pahrump 200. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Really it kind of snowballed to do the air cooled challenge. I was really planning on with the 16 car to do Battle of Prim and Laughlin and to do
Mhm.
Rage at the River. And then we had, a good couple days at Battle of Prim and they started this air cooled challenge would look really fun. I really enjoyed doing the Triple Crown, stuff at Moore. So it was a little bit, like that. And Pahrump
Yeah.
was the next one on the schedule. So we went out there and it was just a super fun track. I've raced through there, over the years, but never done that loop, that,
Okay.
that they really have there. And it was a really fun race. No pre-running, no nothing, as far as that was concerned, which was kind of nice just to be able to go there, get ready for the race, go to tech, get the car ready and go race. And we started, I believe, third off the line and kind of got out front, the first car on the road right around the first pit, and really just ran a really good pace. It was probably one of the dustiest races I've ever been in. So I don't
Okay.
think I really saw the first half of it, very much, and
Right.
and definitely a couple uncomfortable parts, that were in there, even in a 16 car to where you're just like, I'm going pretty fast and I can't see,
Right.
anything on,
Yeah.
on some of those roads. But we did one fuel stop, and the car took, about, I don't know, 10 gallons or so, and really just had a smooth run, we finished pretty well. It was kind of fun dicing with some of the 12 and some of the 10 cars, on a course like that. That was,
Mhm.
super fun, extremely challenging the last 40 or 50 miles. I didn't really know what to expect, and everybody was talking about the first 5 or 6 miles was really rough and rocky, and for me, the last 40 was definitely just not my favorite. It was nice to bring the car home,
Yeah.
in with all four tires on it and still looking good.
Sure. Sure. You're coming into Laughlin. As are you in a battle with someone else for the lead? Because it's all the air cooled motors,
Yeah.
516, all those.
Yeah, so it's a pretty close battle, and I really haven't seen the total points, how it shakes out. But the class 11 cars, as you know, are having a really good showing. They had a lot of cars. I think they had one or two more than us at
Okay.
Battle of Prim, maybe one more, and kind of the same thing, at the Pahrump race.
Mhm.
And Oliver Flemente has won both of them, out of Ensenada. So I think him and I are kind of neck and neck. So
Okay. Okay.
for the two of us, I don't know how close really anybody else is. I know Vic Bruckman is pretty close because I think he's got second, longtime air cooled,
Yeah, and
successful
you
guy,
can't
right?
keep you can't count him out.
Yeah, so there's a couple, it's, I don't know, it's still pretty close, right? The first three that I can think of, and I'm sure if I looked a little deeper, there's some guys in there that are probably close on
Yeah.
the 11 side. So yeah, it'll be definitely going to need to be a good couple days, and hopefully we get an extreme car count, in
Sure.
1600.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if we can't help pump those numbers up a little bit. But
Yeah.
so what's next?
Getting ready for the Baja 1000.
Okay.
So just actually had the final test session yesterday, racing a Class 10 car with Freddie Willert and Stan Potter, a
Okay.
single seat Illumacraft.
Okay.
So we were testing late last night, checking lights, really doing a lot of systems checks in Plaster City. Doing the final stuff this week, and then we're leaving really on Saturday
Okay.
before the race and be down there pre-running, all week getting ready for the race. So really looking forward to that. It was nice to drive the car yesterday. I haven't been down to Mexico really since 2019.
Oh wow.
So last time I raced down there, kind of when COVID, the following
Mm.
year, COVID happened, and I haven't been back really since then. So I'm really looking forward to it. And it's nice to be, racing with, in my opinion, a really good team
Sure.
down there that, Stan's got a ton of success. The entire team has a ton of success. Freddie's, a great driver.
Yeah.
And they're on a really, really good program. So I'm excited to be down there with them.
And a solid car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very solid car.
Couldn't ask for a better car.
And a single seater, right?
Yeah.
I like single seaters, so.
Yeah, there you go. So you're gonna go down and do the 1,000 and do well down there. I can tell. I can already tell, and then come home and get ready for Laughlin. So you got a busy end of the year schedule.
Yeah, it just happened that way. It wasn't supposed to be that way, but it definitely was busy with the Pahrump race last weekend, testing this weekend, leaving next weekend, and then we'll have a few weeks. You got Thanksgiving in there. We'll do some, obviously some family stuff, and then we'll be in Laughlin.
Well, sounds exciting. I can't wait. So let's get into you and your car. Let's talk about your car.
So I have a single seat Fraley. It's got a pretty cool history, I think. So originally it was built for one of my really, really good friends, Arding Dennington, really back in like the mid 2000s. So
Okay.
right around that 2005, 2006 mark. And I raced it with him a couple times, back then. And then he sold it to another few friends of ours, and it kind of went through a couple hands. But Stephen Eugenio had owned it, who actually had one of my old cars, my Lothringer cars, and then really good friend of mine, Adam Fatcook, owned it. And then I bought it back after, a guy named Cameron Butcher had it, and it had sat for probably 5 or 6 years. And I bought it back and had Bruce Fraley completely go through it. We kind of bare framed it. I really missed racing 1600s and got back into it a little bit because of my dad, and I did it, really with my dad the last couple of years to really get ready because he loved all the air cooled stuff and wanted to go back racing.
Mm-hmm.
So Bruce has really taken care of the car the last couple of years, and I really would say I don't know if I'd say updated it. We did a couple changes on it. We always kind of are doing things to it, but if obviously Bruce, I mean he builds a phenomenal car.
Immaculate. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a lot of fun doing that, and we really kind of did a ground up rebuild on it and put all new parts on it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really what I've been racing the last couple of years. So hats off to Bruce really for building a fantastic car.
Yeah, and it's like every time I see that car out, you've changed the livery on it. And I mean, it's amazing. It looks great. You have any inspirations for that?
When I originally did it, my dad was sick, so I let him design it all, and I was
Okay.
really, bright colors,
Hmm.
is kind of what I've always done. I've really been into fluorescence. So he really picked that piece out. And then Bruce had a fluorescent yellow car, a short course car that I really, really liked.
Okay.
And we went down, my daughter and I went down and helped him, and he actually was in surprise and just crushed the field. And I liked the way the car looked on the track. So as
Okay.
soon as he got done, I go, we're going to change it to fluorescent yellow. And I really like the fluorescent yellow, but we just recently put an all carbon fiber body on it.
Oh, wow.
Um, so that's why the colors changed this time. And
Okay.
I kind of did the fluorescent red, orange, and yellow, to kind of just mash the two together and leave the carbon at the same time.
Oh, thanks. Nice. All right. Well, so what actually got you into racing? I mean, I know you've been doing this for quite some time now.
Yeah, so my dad, like a lot of us, it was a family thing. My dad did it for a lot of years, and
Okay.
we used to go to the desert as a family, and as long as I could remember, um, it was really going to the desert. That was what we did as a family, and vacations were in the desert. So it really was my dad. My dad raced, the AMSA days, raced in the 70s, the 80s, raced when the class one was like a swing axle, back in those days. And then he raced class nine, 1600. And it really was him, like a lot
Yeah.
of us, right, that started with their dads. I was always out there pitting, kind of holding the sign up and just waiting for him to come around.
Yeah.
Uh, and I can remember that, as long as I can think, right, when I was
Yeah.
young.
That's awesome. It's awesome. And how old were you when you first started racing, and what was your first car?
Uh, I was in my I was in my teens, so I was probably like 18 or 19,
Okay.
when I first started racing, and it was my dad's car. So I raced my dad's car for the first couple of years, and it was a ORE. So it was an off-road engineering was what the
Okay.
chassis
Yeah,
was.
that's the name I haven't heard
Um,
in a while.
yeah, so it was an awesome car, and I started racing and had some, growing pains kind of and I always would drive like one half. My dad would drive the other half, and finally got to a point where I started a race. I would usually always finish, and
Mhm.
that race we did well. We won. It was in Lucerne, and my dad said, "Okay, we'll go race the next one, and you start this time again. I'll finish." And we were doing well, so my dad said, "Hey, stay in the car," and we won that one. And then he was like, "Okay, I'm done."
Yeah.
And then I just started racing that car. But my dad's a little bit shorter than I am, so I never really fit,
Yeah.
all that well in it. And then it was probably like around 99 or 2000. I started talking to Kent Lothringer, and he built me a single seat car that actually
Okay.
was built for me.
It sounds like you like the single seats over a two-seater. Have you had much experience in a two-seater? What's the draw between a single seat and a two-seater for you?
Yeah, I just like sitting in the middle. I think a bit of it is that's what my dad always had, right? So I
Okay.
think that's probably a bit of it. But the two seaters, I raced a two-seat Class 10 car for a while with my friend Adam Fancook, and then unlimited cars. I raced a couple Class 1 cars that were always two-seaters.
Hmm.
When I think of the limited cars, I really like the single seat package. If I
Okay.
think of unlimited cars, it's probably, the two seats is where it's at, but I've also driven, a single seat one car that I liked as well. I like sitting in the middle, and I think when you think of like race cars and you think of um, you know, really any other discipline, a majority of those
Sure.
cars you're sitting in the middle. So
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So let's talk about what kind of races you like to attend. You said you were shooting for just Battle at Prim and Laughlin this year, and of
mhm.
course you're doing very well and expanded on it. But are those typically the races that you shoot for? Or is it just
No.
no?
No, those aren't. So I
Okay.
think I wanted to do those ones because they're just good family races.
Okay.
And I've really been trying to kind of work on my package for those races, the shorter races,
Okay.
especially with the single seater.
Hmm.
It's just a little bit different platform. So I think it's been more of that piece of it. I
Okay.
really wanted to just concentrate on those races, and they're just a little bit easier to prepare for, right?
Sure.
I think that if I had my choice, I really like desert races. I like the
Okay.
300-mile. I
Yeah.
like being in the car for 5 hours or so. Like I've always liked that because I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that happen inside those 300 miles. There's basically two or three races within that race,
Absolutely. Yep.
and you get a lot of time. I do love the short races because it's like a switch turns on, but
Hmm.
I really do feel like if you're racing a lot of the races that have a lot of cars in Barstow or Lucerne, it's really the same way.
Yeah.
You're going hard from the start. So
Yeah. Right.
I like a
Ba-
little more miles.
Baja or stateside?
You know, I think Baja has its own unique appeal,
Sure.
because it's more being in just the environment, of racing. So it's completely different. I'm so excited to go down there just to be down there for a week and just enjoy being down there and pre-running. I
Hmm.
love that aspect of it. But if I were to pick, I love racing in Barstow and Lucerne because I've kind of switched a little bit to where I like doing the local races to where you can camp, bring the family.
Yep.
I love pre-running. I think a lot of people know me. I really enjoy that piece of it. So it's kind of a toss-up. I'm excited to go to Baja. I haven't been back there for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I've really been focusing the last 2 or 3 years racing the local races, and I loved it for more of the family, aspect of just camping and
Yeah.
stuff that you don't typically get to do in Baja.
It's a lot easier to get everybody all involved when
Hmm.
it's those smaller races than being spread out in Baja. They both have their merits and appeal. I totally get it.
Yeah.
So, what's like one of the most memorable races for you in the years that you've been doing this?
If I think of a 1600 car, I think that, I mean, I'm dating myself, right? So I used to race when they had the Pro 16 races way back when, right?
Hmm.
And there was one that was in Barstow, and it had to have been early 2000s, and it poured like the whole race. And it was just absolutely brutal. I mean, I couldn't see the whole race. My shield broke.
Oh wow.
It just from trying to keep the visor going up and down, not fogging up, and it was just a treacherous race, and it was a night race on top of that.
Man.
And we had a massive car count, that was there, and it ended up, Rob had some issues right at the beginning, and me and Brian Freeman were just kind of going after it, at the end. And just the environment itself, it wasn't just like a normal race, right? You were
Yeah.
just going through mud puddles and at the time, I mean, I don't even know what the horsepower was in those cars back then, but you hit a puddle, it was just and you were gearing
Right.
down.
The
And
old high compression single port motors. Yeah.
yep. And him and
Mhm.
I were just going back and forth and back and forth. And he started in front of me and I finished the race and we ended up winning tonight. They're like, "Hey, how did it feel when you passed Brian?" And I never even saw him because it was so muddy and he had broke like a front arm or something and he was out front and had some troubles. And I think that was probably the most memorable one, just be in a 16 car because it was
Sure.
just
That's awesome.
it had everything in it. And as far as Mexico or another class, I'd say 2018. I was racing with the cops driving their one car.
Okay.
It was more the most memorable getting to where I was gonna, get in the car. It was a loop race, and I was driving the end, so we had a lot of time to get to where we needed to get to. And on the way there, we ended up getting hit by a local that ended up stealing a car, ended up trying to pass a bus, clipped the front of the bus, slid into us, and then rolled his car. And because we were involved in it, we had to go to the police station. They made us go to the police station. I didn't think I was going to be able to get to where I was going to get in the car on time. All the airbags went off, in the truck. We had to cut the airbags out, cut the airbag off the steering wheel to get the truck going. Spent probably an hour and a half at the police station, which was, just
Yeah.
an experience in itself. And luckily we were able to get there. And I think we literally got there like 15 or 20 minutes before I was supposed to get in the car.
Oh, wow.
It was like we parked, stopped, and then the car came and we got in. So that
Well,
was a pretty memorable one.
I guess that almost takes care of the second one. Like, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened in a race? I think
Yeah,
that really does it.
that probably is it. And then I also had, one where I was racing a 10 car with my friend Adam and I was driving the end and we were probably, I don't know, 75 miles from the finish line, going off of a cliff, like just starting to head our way back into the finish. And we hung a wheel off and there was a couple cars that went off the side of this cliff
Oh,
and we
wow.
just rode, the side of the cliff and didn't end up hitting anything, but ended up high centered on a rock. And then once we Google Earthed it and we really looked at how steep that was and how many trees there were, then it was like, wow, like that could have been really bad.
Pretty
Yeah,
gnarly. Yeah.
yeah, we had to dig ourselves out of there, and that was a long night. That
Oh,
was that
wow.
was probably one of the craziest and scariest things that happened inside a car.
That happened similar to me coming down from Simpson Ranch in Mike Sky Ranch, going back into Valley T and came around a corner just a little bit too hot. I knew it was there, and the same thing, like almost 50-50 grind, and stopped. And my passenger was getting ready to get out. I was like, "You may not want to do that. Like, don't look down." And it was like very steep down the side. So I very much understand.
And we had kind of a race going, but we were kind of fighting our way back, and we had some troubles in the beginning, and then I just blew it and
Yeah,
kind of kind of capped it off that it wasn't going to be a good race.
yeah, right on. So you talked about your dad a lot at the beginning. Is was he would somebody you would consider like your hero and mentor and all this? And if not, who is?
Yeah, so definitely my dad. My dad
Yeah.
was my mentor. He's the one who got me into it. I think, just in life in general, showed me what hard work is about, right? And
Hmm.
I say to this day, he's still the hardest working guy that I've ever met, and I think if I ever start to feel a little tired, I always think of my dad, on how hard he worked. And so I think that was a bit more of it. And we always worked on our own cars. So I prepped my own cars. And my dad did a lot of the, his own fab work, and we did all that out of his shop. So by far, he's my mentor and obviously taught me how to drive and
Yep.
taught me how to race. But I think throughout my career of racing, right? Because I could think of a lot of mentors that I've been fortunate enough to have in my life, but um, Kent's one of those ones that really taught me how to prep. He taught me how to mag. I could think of guys like Brad Inch taught me how to build shocks and tune shocks. There's been just a lot of people that have, I think, put some good deposits really in me,
It's awesome.
throughout the years. If I think of a Baja mentor, I really think of my friend Adam Fancook. He's really the one that got me comfortable, going to Mexico. And you even think of those guys now, right? Now I work with Bruce
Yeah.
Fraley and all these guys that just have all this knowledge. So I've been really lucky to be
Nice.
involved with a lot of people. My dad started it off.
Nice. So you've been in the class for quite some time now, 20 years or so, and you've seen the progression. We talked about the single port motors and stuff, and now we're getting into the low comp motors. How do you like the progression of the cars, and is there anything else that you would change?
You know, I like it. You know, I think whenever you say a lot of years, I left, right? I think I sold my car in '06. That was really the last time. I think I raced a couple 16 races
Hmm.
here and there, like in '08. So it had been a long time since I had driven a 16 car. And I really didn't know, I really hadn't paid attention to everything that had been going on with the low
Okay.
comps and all that. And so it's really been the last couple of years I've got up to speed on them. And, you know, I love the direction that they're going. Obviously, we're going a little bit faster and it's hard on parts. You know, I've had to, you know, kind of change some of the things on my car to make sure, you know, they're not breaking, you know, at the same time. I do think that anytime you can further a sport, you know, it's ultimately good. And I don't even know if it's all that we're going faster, we're breaking parts. I think just materials different nowadays.
Yeah,
Just,
quality of
you
parts.
know,
Yeah.
overall, you know, I like the motor platforms, the changes. We'll probably talk a little bit about, you know, how I feel about the high comps and low comps, you know, at the same time. If you were to see anything, you know, ultimately change in the class, you know, it'd be nice, you know, if you did away with torsion bars, right? And keep the same width, you know,
Right.
but go to coilovers, you know, and get rid of the spring blades in the front, you know.
Right.
That'd be the only thing that I would see. I really wouldn't want to do anything to the class. I
Yeah.
love it. I still think it's pound for pound the most fun class in the desert. You know, I love that I got back into racing it. I think it's the most fun I've had in a long time racing, not to mention just competitive.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're really cool cars to drive, you know.
Yeah, and
So
the family that is the 1600. There's a couple different Facebook groups. You know, Robbie does the one over there, and he's got a lot of great responses and topics and stuff that go back and forth. And you know, some of them get a little heated, but overall, my opinion, the 1600 family is a great community to be a part of. Anyway,
yeah,
yeah.
it is, and you know, it's funny because you know, when I started to get this car and we started to get it together, even a lot of the you know my friends that pitted for me way back when, you know, they love coming to the 1600 races. You know, we had a
Yeah.
lot of guys go to the Perump race, so it's definitely you know grassroots, you know, at the same time. But then
Mhm.
you know sometimes we're you know we have the biggest car counts at some of these races, like you know Battle of Prim, you know, and Laughlin and those areas. So it's a good show at the same time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you like you have both motors? You have a high comp and you have a low comp.
Mhm.
You think that they're getting closer to be evenly matched? Is there a race that's better suited for one over the other one?
You know, I think that the low comps have just dominated for so long, right? If I think of which one I like better, I would say the one that's more fun to drive for me is the high comp.
Okay.
You know, I like race gas. You know, I like
Okay.
you know, using race gas, and I feel like corner to corner, um, you know, they do really well. But there's limitations, right? Because it's got a small
Right.
carburetor, whether or not the restrictor plates have changed and all that. There's still some limitations to it.
Sure.
So those races where you're winding it out, you know, potentially the low comp, you know, has an advantage, but extremely rough courses, you know, and silty courses and those types of courses, I feel like the high comp does very well too. You know, and it's nice to have kind of both because there's a lot of things that transition from one to the other. So
Sure.
we can use, you know, each other to kind of test, you know, different platforms. And that's what we did at Pahrump.
Yeah. And
So I
I
use
mean,
my high comp at
oh,
Pahrump.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kevin Akala, I mean, he has a high comp motor, and he was able to, you know, do well against you and Fernie and Prim.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's still some life left in those motors.
Yeah. And, you know, his previous owner, right, Imhoff and Jeremy, they showed that the high comp could run, you know,
Mhm.
and they did really good at a couple of those races. And, you know, I think I just like the package too, because that's what I started with a long time ago.
Yeah,
And it's pretty neat that, you know, not only the high comps have come that way, the low comps have, you know,
yeah,
obviously as well.
as well. Well, as we wind this down, a couple more questions for you. Let's start with like maybe a fun fact that some people just don't know about you?
Man, you know, I think one of it, and it's whether it's a fun fact or not, but it's me. Like I love watches,
Okay.
so I really collect watches, and it doesn't
Cool.
matter like what kind of watches. I've got a ton of G-Shock watches. I mean, I used to collect back in the day whenever it was like Swatch watches were the
Okay.
thing, so
Interesting.
I really like watches, even old school like pocket watches. I've just always been a huge watch fan, and
Okay.
I wouldn't say I have, you know, a lot, like 50 or 100, but I have several watches
No,
that
that's
I've just
cool.
had for a long
That's
time.
that's cool. And then, so what gets you started? What's your pre-race routine? What either calms you down or psychs you up right before a race?
You know, I do the same thing every race. I wake up in the morning. I typically wake up before everybody else, gets to the pit, and I get dressed. I put my suit on. I listen to, a little bit of music, but, sometimes not. It's more just being up early. I walk out, look the car over, really just do the same thing. And then, ultimately just visualize the course, visualize, what the racecraft is going to be for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the team and everybody starts coming in, and then I break off, and have a little bit of quiet time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't typically eat a ton, right? I'll do, potentially a protein shake, protein bar, type of thing, and then, drink a lot of electrolytes. I'm big on staying hydrated, even the week
Yeah.
before, 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when it's race time, I feel like I'm pretty prepared. I'm in the right spot, and get in the car and go do my best.
Nice. All right. Well, Mike, I really want to thank you for coming on here and doing this with me. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you doing that. As we wrap up here, any sponsors and people that you want to thank?
Yeah, definitely. So, I talked a lot about Bruce. I can't thank him enough. We really had to get this car together quickly for a number of reasons. Obviously more around my dad, and Bruce just crushed it with the car. Got it done to where my dad was able to test it, my dad was able to drive it.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, I'm forever going to be thankful to Bruce. Not to mention, he's my prep guy, right, and just
Yeah.
does a fantastic job. If anybody's ever looked at my car,
It's
um,
immaculate.
yeah, he just does a fantastic job. I got to thank Jared Weddle from Competitive Edge. He's become a really good friend of mine, but more importantly, I just like his dedication to the sport and to the class, and always trying to move stuff forward. And he's been a huge help, with my program. DC Shocks, Kurt Youngs, if anybody knows Kurt, he does a nice job with my shocks. Been doing my shocks for a long time. And sometimes I think gets a little annoyed with me because I change the colors on those, a lot too. Chris from Shock Seals been supplying me with Shock Seals, really for 15, 20 years, really since he started his business. And then, Ron at Weddle's been pretty helpful with some stuff with me,
Yeah.
in the past. And, just everybody who helps out, really all my friends and all my core guys that come out to the races. That list is extremely long. Everybody knows it, but most importantly, my wife. It's been pretty cool to have my own program. That had been a while. I've been just racing with people, and doing that's a little bit different. And she's just a huge supporter, and does a nice job at all the races, not only helping me, but supporting me. But, my daughter's a big part of my program too. So, if you see me nowadays, everywhere I go, my daughter's with me.
It's awesome.
And
It's awesome.
so it's a fun family affair, and she definitely makes it go round.
That's awesome. Well, very good, Mike. I want to thank you for coming on, and all you guys for watching and listening in. I really appreciate you supporting us. So thanks again to everyone. Don't forget to hit that share, like button, and comment on the videos.
All right. Thanks a lot, Eric.
Thanks, Mike. We'll
Yeah.
see you in Laughlin.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks.